As we've got Robin Parr with us today, I am ridiculously excited. She has been on the theta healing journey. She is a spiritual entrepreneur. Now she's a medical intuitive as well. She's into Bikram Yoga, which is one of my favorite things of all time. But one of the best things about working with Robin for the last 6 months is that she's always so full of courage. She's always surprising me with one good thing after the other. And she's got not just a wicked sense of humor, but an intelligence that's going to like shake you guys to the core. So I'm absolutely delighted to be working with her. I'm so happy she's here. I'm going to let her introduce herself to you and tell you a little bit more about what she does. And then we're just going to flow, guys. Welcome, Robin.
Thank you. So I'm super excited to be talking to you today. My name is Robin Parr. I'm an American. I've lived in Amsterdam for about 20 years. I am a spiritual teacher, healer. I've been running my own company for, 4 or 5 years, very successfully. And before that, I taught full-time Bikram Yoga. And when I came up to you like 6 months ago and we had a call, I was basically like, I just want a deeper connection to God. I don't really need to go into like hospitals and do all this medical stuff. That's just not the thing that I really care about, but I just want to talk to God.
Yeah.
And in that 20-minute conversation we had, my life changed. I'm just gonna try not to cry. I'm gonna cry too. Okay.
It's all the feels. Our sentence is a bitch, guys. Sometimes you really feel what you feel when you feel it.
Oh my gosh. So we worked on trusting myself in that little conversation, and it hit hard. And after that conversation, I had so much confidence and so much trust in myself that I exploded. My business just went like wham. My clair cognisance opened up, and I was having these months of bliss. Like I'd wake up at 5 a.m. before my boyfriend's alarm, and I'd be like, "It's amazing! Here we are! Like, what's gonna happen today? Life is amazing!" And I would just turn my focus on like a client I couldn't help. I worked with this little boy in Barcelona. I went there to work with him like a year ago. I couldn't help him in the way I knew I could help. And I was sitting there one morning in bed, and I just thought of him, and it was like, bam, I knew exactly what had happened to him. And I called his mom, and she said, I just thought of you yesterday, and a friend sent a video about this and this, and oh my gosh, thank you so much. I totally, in all cells of my body, I hear what you're saying, and I know this is what we need to do for him. And it was like ongoing like that. Everyone I talked to, I would get this knowing of they need this homeopathic remedy, or this is the thing that they haven't been able to get diagnosed, and this is what's actually happening to them. And so every conversation I had with people was basically like, you need to work with me, like I get when you said you're the answer to our prayers, like I got it in every cell that I am the answer to their prayers. And if they don't work with me, their life might not have this amazingness that I know is possible for them. So needless to say, financially, like I got booked out, 4 months in advance where I couldn't post. I mean, we were supposed to.
You messaging me going, what do I do? Yeah.
We were supposed to be posting daily, but if I post something and it's still the case, I will get a package sale, or I will get someone who wants sessions. And I was booked for 4 months out. So, and I wanted my one-on-one people to have, their spaces. So it was the best problem, a healer could have. And not only that, but I was leading a group course at the time, and the results that those clients had were crazy. Like I had one woman who said, I really want to join your course, but I can't afford it. Can we pay like $100 a month? And I was like, absolutely. So she joined. And within that month, she went from like not enough money to €12,000 she made in that next month with her spiritual business that she just went, again, she exploded. And other people in that same course, they moved countries to their dream house. They quantum jumped into creating the reality that they hadn't thought was possible. We were all just like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, you know, you sit back and you don't do anything. You're just being yourself, and people are having their lives change miraculously. And you're just going like, this is funny. God, really? You know, really? Yeah. So that was like on a big scale, like what was happening with my business. But something that happened that was so touching, because I know probably there's a lot of mothers out here who, once you start doing your healing, you start thinking, I really don't want my child to be screwed up like I was. But you know they're traumatized because whatever, you left them with the neighbor, or you did this, or something always happens because we're humans. And when my kid was 4, my husband and I took him to a Halloween party, and he couldn't talk to the adults. Like they said, you're locked in, basically, you have to stay, and the music was too loud. But he was too young to be there alone and say, like, I don't want to be here. Anyway, I knew it was a traumatic experience for him, but I couldn't undo it for, you know, he's 11 now. I couldn't figure out how to undo this. And in your exercise, so in the course, this one exercise where you taught about releasing emotions, like the most simple exercise. I stood and I said, hey, I was releasing this emotion, and I figured you might have the same because you're my child. And he was like, okay. So we did it together. And we're doing this exercise. We're just moving, you know, in the spiral. And the tears start coming, and they start coming for him. It's gonna go again.
It's a powerful morning, Robin.
This 11-year-old was finally able to process that. And then we were like, well, let's go to the next one, you know, and this time he got lost on his bike in Amsterdam alone. And then all that panic that came up and all that, whoop, you know, we're doing the spirals and he's bawling, crying. But it was like as a mother, the simplest ability to be able to help your child process their big emotions without feeling like you traumatize them and need to send them off to, you know, a therapist or a healer as soon as possible. That was so valuable of the course. But of course, that meant I can work with any kids. Just simply, I would have his friends spend the night, and then we'd say, hey, is there anything, you know, and then his friends would just want to, you know, release some emotions. Something so simple. So I'm definitely one of those students who is mourning the end of this. For me to receive it, like, I've been working for many years as a healer, you know.
I do. You were a very established teacher before you came on.
And the thing as a healer is that you don't get lessons in healing. You go to your own healings and you learn along the way, but every week I would get all of your information of like how to do a scan, how to do this, how to heal, how to guide a session, how to work with trauma. And to be able to have someone meet me at a level and I get to grow again, you know, and I get to learn new things. And in the practice groups, really feel like I fumbled and failed and I sucked at something again, which was like, ooh, you know, I have to learn something new, is like the best gift as an adult, to be able to expand my abilities and to feel like I'm getting better in my expertise. Oh, this is such a gift.
I like so many things you said are just, they're so goddamn beautiful, Robin. They're so beautiful. And I really want to honor who you are, because it's how you use things, you know, it's how you show up for things. And you have shown up. You've shown up with so much love, not just for yourself, but for the other students as well. I've seen you go above and beyond over and over and over again. And it's what you're like. I work so hard with these containers, because it's exactly what you said. I felt so lonely after becoming a teacher, especially for like 5-10 years. And I also felt like I didn't want any weird competition energy in those spaces. And I also wanted a space where we get to fail, because I find so many modalities are just like, it covers it up, but then there's no space for you to really see how far you can go, see how great you can be, see how, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's so hard because sitting on your hands and letting people fail. It's exactly like with your children, when they fall over and you're like, and they can do it, but it's still like, you know what we're like. You've seen how many times the emotions really like touch your core, and it's so hard. And it's so right at the same time, because watching you do what you're able to do has been the greatest thing. Like the witnessing of that has been not just so much growth, but so much joy. It's quite incredible how, like, what a peace it brings. It sounds crazy, right? But one of the reasons I did Medical Intuitive was exactly because when my son was being born, I thought if anything happens to me, right, then there's a lot of people that don't get that information.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in this queue that are, like you said, will perish, or not going to be here anymore. And that's not right. It's not mine. It's humanity's, right? And when I watch you and the others do their thing, that is gone. That burden is gone. It's almost like it's so beautiful. It's such a relief. Do you ever get that feeling where it's like, because you've seen your containers, and it's the same thing with wealth. Like, it's such a big prison, and health can be the same. And when you watch people come out of it, it's like because they're part of your soul family. You're like, they're out, they're free, they're strong, they can do this. Right?
Yeah. And what I also was commenting on a few friends, that we got to see the hot seat healings like weekly almost. Yeah. And it's like, there's such a privilege, because again, when do you ever get to be a fly in the wall in someone's healing session? Yeah. And then to see what's possible. So it was masterful. It's like watching an Olympian do their work and being able to see how they practice, basically, and see the way they're training in order to know what steps do I need to work on, what do I need to develop myself, where do I feel shaky still. When I would watch our healings, I would just notice like, I didn't know anything about this area, let me focus on that some more. Or Sky's really not doing this and this. What if I lean back a little bit in my sessions? Could I, apply that as well to my sessions? So it was like as a healer, the greatest thing to be able to learn and watch and enjoy. And, it's like watching an Olympian do a sport. It's masterful. It's amazing. Like, I love the hot seat healings.
The hot seat healings are like so like complete vulnerability, like so for real. The first time I had to do a hot seat healing in my own modality, I almost died. I did. I really, really
did. No pressure, right? No pressure.
No pressure. And it's so, but this is the thing about teaching, right? Is that in teaching, you become better at what you do as well. Mm-hmm. It's having to explain it. Then the questions, you actually have to think about, why did I move like that? Why did it flow like that? But I hear you, because I actually miss that so much. I miss watching demonstrations. It's still one of the things I binge watch online, is other people's demonstrations. But I hear you, and I think it is so ridiculously important. I think it's so ridiculously important, because so what you said, I think when you do it in a room where all the other healers are doing it, everybody goes ka-dunk, ka-dunk. And the same thing happens online, but it is different because you can't see everyone else. There is something about how we process with the third eye and the energy of it that it's very important to have that. It's very important to have that. And I will be inviting you guys to do hot seats, just so you know, not just like receive them, actually give them, so that people can see, because everybody's different in how they move when God is moving with them. Yeah. And some people just get sparked, exactly by what you saw. That resonance is so powerful and so deep.
Well, speaking of that, because we had to do 2 case studies in order to complete the MIT.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was the first time in, I used to record my Zoom sessions, but most of the time people are having packages. They don't need the recordings.
Yeah.
So this was the first time where I was doing the medical intuitive technique recorded. And when I went back and watched part of it, it was like what you said, like, wow, I had a totally different, how do you call that? Recognition of myself. Like I would go, oh, I get why people feel safe with me, or I get why people want to keep coming back for sessions with me. And yeah. I could acknowledge myself and really be like, great, like you have such an amazing energy, Robin. Wow, that's amazing. Like, and look back on it and just laugh like it was fun, and like something I would have never had the opportunity to see, sense, or know about myself, because I would have never done a third person, look at what was actually happening there.
I think that's one of the reasons that God kind of pushed me, because I had so much training when I did counseling and hypnosis, and because I ended up doing an advanced diploma in counseling, and hypnosis was the first year, but it was like one of those divine interventions, because I would never have studied hypnosis otherwise. I just wouldn't have done it. And then I got sucked in and I fell in love, the same way you kind of fell in love with this. But there was something so powerful about the supervision, about, like I said, being able to ask questions, and also about I remember particularly Anthony Robbins saying, record your sessions, listen to your phone calls, what language are you using, and, watch it back. And in the beginning, it was so, it's so hard for most people to do, right? Because they're hardwired not to witness themselves. Yeah. But that wound, that block to your own validation, stops so much manifestation, so much recognition, so much growth and fame, because obviously if you can't validate yourself, then the world can't recognize and validate you, right? And clients are looking for results. So unless you can really speak to the certainty that you can contain, that you can help, that you can nurture, they don't feel safe with you.
Yeah.
So when you're able to do that, suddenly you can, and you're like, no, I get that I am unique. I get that I'm different. And it's not an arrogant thing. It is a humility thing. It's, you are actually able to witness yourself for the first time. And that's huge.
Yeah.
I think it's hard for most people, particularly from a lot of modalities where they don't have to do anything like that. But I think the growth is exponential if you're willing to be present with yourself and the way you move and the way you dance and the way that, God moves through you. I think it completely changes you from treating your spiritual gifts and the promises God put inside you like toys, to taking them seriously and understanding that they are life-saving tools. And that's what I feel when I watch you, Well,
this is the thing that came up with the whole course, was I thought everyone was like me.
No.
So during the course, I was like, oh, these things that come really naturally to me, like creating a successful business as a healer, or working on my wealth consciousness, the things that I adore and the things that I'm really good at, like call me at 1 a.m. and we'll chat, business and manifestation, baby. Like those things I thought were just given. And then to be in this container with so many different healers struggling with exactly that, I thought, oh, let me let me focus on that a little bit more. Like let me call it out in my marketing. Let me talk about it in my copy.
It's huge. The wound is massive and it's lifetimes long. So it's beautiful that you moved into that space. And it's a huge space. Financial abuse is such a huge wound for most healers.
Yeah.
I don't like, this is the thing, this is the thing about niching down. You can't do everything at once, and health is a huge, huge, huge space. So is wealth. It is massive. It is pervasive because you need it for every area of life. But I think 100%, and there's so many incredible healers who are living on nothing because this is there. Yeah. So it's very powerful work that you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then of course the byproduct, let's say, or whatever, was doing the medical intuitive technique. I started offering health packages. and having my first clients booking these health packages. And because my claircognizance opened up, I was getting information about flower essences or homeopathic remedies that would support them. And things that I really care, I studied fashion before I taught Bikram Yoga. I've always had this love for the human body. So to not just feel kind of clueless like I used to feel when it would come to healings about the body, but really to know, I've been working with a client for, I don't know, a year or so with cancer, and then to be able to do the deeper work and the aftercare and the things that before MIT, I just felt kind of like, hope it's going okay, hope it's working out, but just got this extra level of confidence and ability to expand, what I could really offer people, that it feels more round.
I think that healing, like particularly if you look at the lives of Jesus or Buddha, or then healing is I think one of the fundamental gifts that is so intertwined with all the other gifts, which is like, the claircognizance, the gifts of prophecy, or the desire to purely help. Right, is such a part of who we are as healers, that when it's blocked, the others are like domino kind of, they're still there, but they're not the way. And then when it opens suddenly, particularly like with the entrepreneurs and it's actually how I got really deeply sucked into medical intuition, was because so many of the entrepreneurs I was working with in the beginning, and it wasn't, the way God does synchronicity, right? It's because I was working with light machines, and I was working in Anna's theta healing company behind the scenes, and I was working in Dubai, and people would come and say, I heard you're good with the health stuff, and my dad has a hole in his heart, my mom is struggling with this, and I'd be like, well, that's not really what I do, but I can come and try. And then just the willingness, right, is enough for God to get in there and be like, I'm sorting this out. And then, as we said, the love for them means that you not only do you get guided to different things, but you get you start to understand that there is an intelligence, not just in the plant kingdoms, in the mineral kingdoms, and in the DNA, that this wound was not created even in this life or the lifetimes before, and that it takes time. And that's where the plants can support, and the nutrition can support, and it's like everyone heals in their own time, in their divine timing. It's not our job to force, right? The healing happens in an instant, but then the person's evolution around that and their identity recreating, that's an intimate process. So I still remember, particularly when I was in Dubai, because there was so many healings, like around babies in particular. And I think that's actually what brought my son in. Because before that I'd had a miscarriage, and having to do so many healings on women with like babies and miscarriages and things back to back to back to back. And I remember it just completely shaking the ground underneath my feet. Like you said, like that energy of the future generations of healers wanting to come through. And how much, like you said, how much we were afraid, or the mother guilt, we were afraid of hurting them or not giving them a good enough life. And how much they were so like, I still remember my son as well, ridiculously brave. They just want to come. They're like, get out of my way. But yeah, it's one of those like insanely beautiful and insanely, like said, like divine responsibility, that level of surrender, that a life is a life before you ever touches you. And that it's got a greater purpose, that you're just a portal that's passing through at one stage in its evolution. But it's really powerful the way, like you said, that the way this combines, particularly like we're talking about abundance, and we're talking, because we actually have 2 pregnancies now from this medical intuitive round. Wow. Right? One came in yesterday and one came in 2 weeks ago, and you were like, oh, what do I do about this? And can I have more time with homework? And I was like, yes, and yeah. The spirit babies get whatever they want. But it's that energy of like the limitless possibilities, the exponential growth available, but particularly with pregnancy and abundance and the provision, that's a huge deal. Like you said, when you're working through, I think it's the number one block to fertility when I work on it.
I didn't understand also, same as you, where a few months ago, I just started getting abortions, miscarriages, want to get pregnant, all these fertility things showing up. And I just said like, okay, God, whatever.
Yep.
I'm that person right now that's helping them for whatever reason. But it just has this, because there's something about that. You're talking to that spirit baby and you have clear ideas like it's coming, or
cradle to grave.
Yeah.
You change the birth or you change the death and the whole life destiny line changes. It's mad.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the best things about the clairvoyance, is that witnessing that is like witnessing, I don't know, it's like witnessing a rope become a star, right? Because their lifeline is like a rope, and then suddenly when it's not bound by the karma at the birth and the karma at the death, it just goes oh.
So almost full circle, we're talking in our discovery call 6 months ago, and I said, I don't want to do that hospital stuff. And you're like, oh, don't worry, you don't have to go to hospitals. And last week I was in the hospital with my friend, and I was like, really? But I was like, God, really? And the space that I was able to be, using body processes that I use with my kid or with my clients, just being a space, not being triggered by all the things, especially in the course, because we talk about medical traumas, about diagnosis traumas, and just being able to be there without getting triggered, without getting upset, without going into, just being the space for my friend to heal was, I had a good laugh at it. I was like, you can't make this stuff up.
You cannot. I had one like genuine, like you, like friend, not client, a friend. And the number of times the nurses asked her why she was crying after she'd literally had physical surgery, and you're sitting there going, I'm just going to keep sending them unconditional love and put a nice little bubble over here because it's like insane. This is like insane. And I remember that she said the doctors actually came to her and said, I've never done a surgery like that. I've never had it work so seamlessly like that. Like, you must be a special person. It's like, yeah, but it's such a different world. And I think it's so hard. It's so hard because and I get this, I think, on a genetic level, because my dad is a doctor, right? And I watched him in two different countries, because the health system in Brazil is very different than the health system inside the UK. Right. But this energy of staying up all night, and the I will do whatever it takes for this person to survive, and this almost like this battle, right, against the body and against death, versus us, which is like an understanding of why the soul created this discomfort or this disease, and what it is learning through that particular experience and working with instead of working against or battling against, right?
Yeah.
It's so hard because, like, for example, my father has more than 200 people on his waiting list.
Wow.
Right. And you're sitting there going, I watched, when I was a kid, I watched him come home tired every day, and I didn't get energetically what that meant. I didn't get the pressure. Right. So if you're them trying to heal on a 3D level is so different. And so much more beautiful, but heavy at the same time, Yeah. So it's a real privilege, like I said, to be able to be there. And it's also insane because hospitals, how they're not conductive to healing is an act of, I don't know what. It just doesn't make any sense. You're like, what? So explain your experiences.